The first thing, what is Apex? Apex is a strongly typed object-oriented programming language. So it's a programming language and it's a strongly typed programming language, which means you need to define the variable type. Whenever you are defining a variable, you will always have to define a variable type. So if you're defining a variable X, you'll have to define whether it's an integer or a string. And that X will continue to stay a integer, a string if you define it as a string, or it will continue to stay as an integer if you define it as an integer. So that's basically the concept of Apex, right? In some programming languages, you have the concept of defining a variable without defining the variable type, but that's not the case in Apex. I'll need all the microphones on mute, please. You can hear some background noise. So let's have all the microphones muted, please. All right. Okay, so Apex is a strongly typed programming language. It allows developers to execute flow and transaction control statements. So it will allow you to control the state, to execute transaction control statements and the flows, right? On the Forge.com platform. Apex is a language which is native to Forge.com. Only Forge.com platform understands this language. It is not used anywhere else in the world. Okay. Now, Apex enables developers to add business logics to most of the system events. So, why do we need Apex? We are talking about a language, we are talking about a program. Why do we need that program? Why do we need that language? We are pretty good, working with all the declarative things that Salesforce has given to us. But then, why do I need a language? Why do I need an Apex? We need that language to put the logics to our system events. Okay, to give instructions to salesforce.com, to give specific instructions to execute on specific system events, right? Like button clicks. What is a system event? Something like a button click, a record update, visual force page load. Apart from this, you can also think of a DML operation, a record being saved or being deleted, or a record being updated. So DML operations, right? So for these things, we need Apex. We need Apex to define logics. We need Apex to define uh, instructions or programs. We need Apex to write those instructions, save them. And Apex is a language which is understood by the Salesforce system. So we'll have to give instructions in that language, right? Now, whenever we talk about a programming language, we have to define variables. Programming language concept depends on variables. You will have certain variables. Now, when we are talking about variables, and then we also said that Apex is a strongly typed programming language, which means every time you're defining a variable, you'll have to define the variable type, the data type of that variable. Okay, so if you define a variable X, you have to define what type of data you're going to store in it. Are you going to store integer or a string or a boolean or something else? That we have to define. So it's important for us to understand the data types also in Apex. So what are the different data types which are allowed in Apex? Let's have a quick look. In Apex, all variables and expressions have a data type that is one of the following. Right? In Apex, all the variables and expressions have a data type, and that's one of the following. Either it will be a primitive, or it will be an S object, or it will be a collection. Okay, so three primary data types that we use are primitive data types, S objects, collections. Under primitives again there are a few data types. Okay, so now let's understand what are primitives, what are S objects, and what are collections. Okay, so what is primitive? Apex primitive data types include the data types which you might have seen in some other programming language also. Something like a string, something like an integer. So these primitives are basically the common data types which are used in some other programming languages also, right? So say A boolean. What is a boolean? A boolean is a data type that can only be assigned a true or false or null. So it can either have a value of true or false or null. It cannot have any other value. Decimal, a number that includes a decimal point. That's a decimal data type. Double, a 64-bit number that includes a data point. So these are very common data types. You would, in case any one of you have done any programming earlier, you would find that these data types are used in some other programmings also. So it's not something which is very new in Salesforce or unique in Apex. No. So these are called primitive data types. ID is very specific to Salesforce, and it refers to the Salesforce.com ID. So this data type can only store Salesforce.com record IDs. Remember the record IDs that we take and put in the Visualforce page URL, that ID. So every record has an ID actually. So the Salesforce.com IDs can be stored in the primitive data type ID. Then there is integer, a 32-bit number that does not include a decimal point. Then there is a long. Long is a 64-bit number that does not include a decimal point. Then there is string, set of characters. String is any set of characters, Monday, Tuesday, any color, any country's name, currency's name, all these things are string. Then we have date, a value that indicates a particular day. Date time, a value that indicates a particular day and time. And then we have time, a value that indicates a particular time. Correct? So these are the data types that we have. Correct? The primitive data types, basically, the ones which are common to other programming languages also. So these are the common primitive data types. Now, the next data type that we are going to talk about is SObject. But before going into SObject, let's see how do we define the primitives. Before moving into SObject, let's see how do we define primitive data types. So pretty simple. You have to decide on what data type you want to use. You have to give the data type and the variable name. Let's say if you want to define an integer, a variable for an integer. So it can be integer I equals to, every line of Apex code should end with a semicolon. If you don't want to assign a value to it, you can define it like this. You can say string color equals blue, or you can say string color. Alright, so every line should end with a semicolon. So data type, variable name. If you want to assign a value to the variable, initiate a value for the variable, put that. Otherwise, just leave it as it is. Just define the data type and the variable, right? And then in the actual coding part, you are supposed to use these variables, right? You might be doing some comparison, you might be doing some assignments and all that stuff, right? So this is how the primitives can be defined. Very simple. Now, let's come to the next data type, that is SObject. Okay. Um, SObject, basically the term SObject refers to Salesforce object. Now, why do we need this Salesforce object data type? And why do we need to define the Salesforce object data type? The logic is pretty simple. Because you are working on Salesforce, so a lot of times, we are dealing with records basically, right? You are dealing with data. Data is nothing but set of records. So while we are dealing with these records, a lot of times it becomes very important for you to make sure that your records are defined as variables. So sometimes your entire record might be used as a variable, right? Sometimes you might need to use a full record as a variable, or a certain number of records as a variable. Now record, if I ask you about a record, let's say you take an account. So an account is a string or integer or boolean. What is that? It's none of them. Account is neither string nor integer nor boolean. Why? Because it is basically collection of values. It's not just one value. A complete record has multiple values in it. Right? Like account has a name, website, URL, phone, fax, industry, type. So many values in which a record holds. Right? So in Salesforce, since we deal with records, we need some variable or data type to refer to these records also. And that's where SObject comes into picture. So SObject means Salesforce object. All right. So that's where it comes into picture. So the term SObject refers to any object that can be stored in the Force.com platform database. So the SObject term actually refers to any object that can be stored in the Force.com platform database. Okay, so it can be standard object, it can be custom object. An SObject variable and an SObject variable. So SObject basically refers to SObject, the Salesforce object, and an SObject variable represents a row of data. So this is the important thing. That's what I was talking about. So your SObject variable basically represents a row of data, like, and can only be declared in Apex. And SObject is again something which can only be declared in Apex. Unlike your primitives, SObjects can be declared only in Apex. So the point is that because we are actually dealing with SObjects and all these things, this can be used for defining variables for records. Just give me one quick second. One quick second. Okay. So got the concept? Basically, SObject variable is a variable which is used for referring to a set, a row of data, a complete record. All right. Now, for example, account A. Now, A is the variable, and A is the variable here of account type. So account is the data type here. You can use account as a data type. So account A is a variable which can hold one account record. Got it? So if we have to write it, how do we write it? So how do we write it? Account A equals new account. Okay. So account A is the variable, account is the data type, SObject data type. All right. Same way, if you want to define a record for contact or variable for the contact record, you should write contact C. If you want to define a variable for opportunity record, you should write opportunity. So name of the SObject will be used as the data type here. Opportunity O. Now O is a variable which can hold a complete opportunity record. That's how simple it is. Alright. Lead XYZ. The name can be anything. Name of the variable can be anything, obviously. So define it like this. And now this XYZ is a variable which can hold a complete lead record. And you can define it like this. New lead first name equals G, last name equals, so email equals contact sing at gmail.com. Do you see this? So this is how it works. Alright. So that's about the SObject variable. So SObject variable can be defined for any of the Salesforce objects, the standard object as well as custom object. Right. Now, so we have talked about two things, primitives and SObject. Primitives are the generic data types, integer, string, decimal, long, date time. SObject variables are basically the Salesforce object data types, where you can use any of the Salesforce object as a data type, account, opportunity, contact, lead, any of the custom object. Now comes the list, collections. If you remember in the previous slide we were talking about data types, we talked about primitives as objects and collections, right? So third is collection. Collection is basically, the variables which can hold multiple values. So collection can be of primitive or collection can be of S object also. A list, okay, so there are different types of collection and the most common collection is a list. Okay, what is a list? List is an ordered collection of primitives or S objects that are distinguished by the indices. Okay. If you don't understand this, let's leave it and let's come back to the notepad. So there is this thing called list. What is a list? List is an ordered collection of primitives or S objects. So what is list? List is an ordered collection of primitives or S objects. So it can be a collection of primitives or it can be a collection of S object. But it's an ordered collection. What does that ordered collection thing means? Ordered collection means, okay, can you see the notepad now? Okay. Yeah, so list, as I said, it's an ordered collection. Okay, what's an ordered collection? What does that mean? Ordered collection means every value that gets into the list. Let's say I have a list of colors, and in this list I put values like red, pink, green, blue. So every value that gets into the list has an index number. That's what ordered collection means. This is in a specific order, and these values are going to remain in this order. Okay, which means every value has an index number. The first value will have an index number 0. Second one will have index 1. Third one will have index 2. Fourth one will have index 3 and so on. Correct? The first one will have index number 0. Alright. So this is an ordered collection, and which means every value that gets into the list holds an index number, and these values are identified by the index numbers. The index number acts as the unique identifier for the value, not the value itself. Which means if you want to add one more red here, it will not have any problem. But index number will be different. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this red and this red, the first red and the last red, are going to be considered separate things, separate entries or separate values. Why? Because the index number. Because it's being kind of the records are being identified based on the index numbers. Correct. So this index numbers are being different for the first value and for the last value. That makes these two as unique values, two unique values. Got it? Okay. Why do you think this is helpful? This is helpful where you need, if there is a list. creating a list where you need to allow duplicate values. Okay, but duplicate values are actually having different entries, and you want both the duplicate values to exist. Then you will need a list. Got it? So that's how it is. All right. Now this list ordered collection of primitives as well as S object. So how do we define a list? Pretty simple. Defining a list, you just have to define, let's say, list of string equals new list. And then you can define it like this: red, green, blue, orange. Okay, so this is how a list is defined. So now colors is a list of these values. If you want to add more values into it, you can do colors dot add pink. So this statement will add pink also to the list, and pink will get added, or the the one that you're trying to add, that value will get added at the last index number. Okay, at here. And the same way, you can also say colors dot get 2. This will return the value from the index number 2, which is blue, right? So that's how it is. We can define list for S object also. List of account A. Now A is a variable which can hold multiple account records. Earlier when I defined account A, then A was a variable. Here A is a variable which can hold only one account record. Here account A can hold multiple account records. Got it? List of account, then you can define account A1, account A2, and then you can say A dot add A1, A dot add A2, right? So what exactly it's gonna do, it's gonna add A1 and A2 to the list A, right? So that's how it is. Correct? Are we clear on this? Correct. So this is how you are going to define a list. So whenever you feel that you are going to work with multiple records or multiple values, then you will use list. Apart from list, there is another collection which is called a set. The only difference between list and set is that set is an unordered collection. Like list is an ordered collection, set is an unordered collection of primitives or S objects. What is unordered collection? Which means the values that get into the set are not in any particular order. There is no index number that they have, which means the actual value. So if I have to define a set of colors, so if I talk about set of colors, now these will not have any defining set is as simple as this. Instead of list, keyword list, you just use the keyword set, right? Now, what does this mean? What does this mean? It means that the values that have got into the set do not have any particular index number, and because they do not have any certain index number, they are identified with their actual values. And if you try to insert one more, add one more orange here, if you try to say colors dot add Nothing will happen because this is a value which is already existing. So it will not allow any duplicate values. Got it? Because the value itself is an identifier. So it's not allowing any duplicate values. In case of a list, duplicates were allowed because the value was not the identifier. The primary key was the index number. Here, index number is not the primary key. Here, the value itself is the primary key. So the second value will not be allowed in the set. So depending on your requirement, where you need what, where you need a list or where you need a set, you have to decide and then you have to use it that way. So whenever you need a collection, you decide whether I need a list or a set, and then you decide it based on that and use it. Correct? Are we okay on it? Do we have any questions or doubts here? Please let me know. So this is what we have basically talked about. We have talked about different data types and the basics of Apex, right? Now, all that we have to do is we have to start creating the Visualforce logics for the Visualforce page using Apex. Okay, so we'll start writing the code and we will start writing, creating the controllers from our side. So far, what we have done is the standard controller, correct? So far, we have just dealt with standard controllers, where Salesforce.com has provided us a ready-made controller, and we have just called that. We have not done anything. We have not written the code. We have not written the logic. Fine. Um, Now, with the help of Apex, we are going to write our own logics. Right? We will be able to write our own controllers. We'll create the controllers and we will use those controllers in the Visualforce pages. Right. So we will, just stop here for today. We will go back and start writing the controllers and classes in tomorrow's session, because that's going to be again a bit lengthier thing. So we will start writing the controllers and then we will use those controllers to create the Visualforce page. Right? So that's something which we are going to start discussing in tomorrow's session.